Novation. Okay. So what we're going to be talking about today is a novation. We're going to be doing two types of novations. The one we're going to go over, the other one we're going to say no, we're not going to do. Okay. Novation type 1. And then novation type 2. Okay. We are not going to do type 2. We are going to avoid type 2. We are going to do type 1. Okay. Type 1 is, actually, let's go over this first. What is a novation? Right? What is a novation? How do we push for a novation in terms of when we're talking to our clients, what we can do to sell them on a novation? Well, what we can do is say, hey, it is a net listing. We are going to sell your house for you. We are going to guarantee the price of your property and you are going to walk away with X amount. Say the property is worth $500,000. My personal belief is I need $50,000 of margin in our specific market right now. We got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of fluctuations in terms of interest rates. We got pricing going up, we got pricing going down. We don't know what's going on, especially when you're doing this nationwide. You don't know what your property is going to end up actually selling for, whether you know what the comp is or not, just based on everything, right? So novation is, I'm going to take care of your property. I'm going to sell it at $450 or give you $450 for the property, and I'm going to go and list it at $499. But what I like to do is I like to put a $10,000 concession right off the bat, so that way I can try and sell it as fast as possible. Now, not everybody does that. Some people want to just sit on it, and that's not necessarily the best way to do it, because if your client gets antsy and wants to back out of the deal 2 months down the road, 3 months down the road, then you're sitting on a property that you could have made $20,000, $30,000 on if you would have just gave up $10,000 of your $50,000 margin, right? So back to what I was saying. A novation is essentially a net listing. What that does is guarantees your seller the price that they want for their property. Say they want $480 because most sellers won't know what they want for their property. Well, nobody's going to offer them a $480,000 price, because after 80 commissions, you got 3% on one side, 3% on the other side, you got 6% there. Then you got your closing costs. You got 2 to 5% is what I like to tell people. In terms of like us as investors, we like to negotiate with our title companies. So I usually pay anywhere from 1 to 2%, usually no more than like 1.8% generally, for my closing costs. So that saves me money on my back end, right? When I go to sell this deal, I can make a little more money because they work with investors. That being said, we always explain to clients that it's 8 to 12% of whatever the purchase price is what we end up having to pay. So that's how you sell it to your clients. And then we go around and we go and say, hey, I'm going to find a flat fee broker that is $500 or 1% listing fee or whatever it might be, and list the property with the rights to list the property, okay? This is a flip and or hybrid, okay? This is a novation / flip. You're flipping the property on a type 2 novation, okay? Nobody calls it type 2. It's just the second method of doing a novation, okay? There is pros and cons to this. Let's kind of scoot that back over, huh? Okay, pros. You do not have to find no hard money lender on this property. So you don't have to find $500K of hard money just to buy the property and then sit at 1%, okay? So this is a pro of no 1%, so you would be, what, 500K, 5K a month? 5K a month? No. Okay? You don't got to pay 1% of your hard money loan every month. Now, you just have to worry about their mortgage. And generally, your people are going to be still paying their mortgage. Sometimes in this scenario, people do write in their contracts that you pay for the mortgage while they're not living there during the renovations, okay? The cons of this are, hey, I want to back out of this property, or the seller wants to back out of this property, okay? Seller backs out. Okay, the reason why this is important is because you do not own this property. You just have the rights to list the property and or work on the property. You do not own this. You are literally just flipping it, essentially for the person you're buying it from, right? And you're not really buying it. You're taking the rights to list the property, okay? And so in terms of the seller back out issues, yes, you can put a memorandum on the property, but you're still out $100,000 if that's what you put into the property, right? If you put $100,000 into this property and the seller backs out of the deal when it comes time to sell, and you've already done all the reno work, yes, you can put a memorandum on the property. Yes, it costs you money. No, it's not easy to get around because now you got to deal with, hey, yeah, they might sell it, but they can sell it and all that, but if they back out, you're still only getting your $100K back during that memorandum. So if they go to sell this property, they sell it for $720,000, they just made $120,000 off of you from backing out of the deal. Yes, there's ways to get, put in the contract and all this fun stuff that they can't back out for this. However, there's a lot of issues with that because some states will allow it and some states won't. Okay? So, questions? What's the pro? Con?
What's a memorandum?
Memorandum. Okay.
And wouldn't that take forever to get my money back?
Exactly. Okay. So, what is a memorandum? A memorandum essentially states, it puts a cloud on title. So, what it does is you put an X price on the memorandum. I have yet to do one yet myself. However, you would put this memorandum at title and turn it in with the title, with your contract and what you had into it with your receipts, okay? So what that does is guarantees what you're gonna get out of this property when it does and if it does ever sell, okay? Now the issues with that is if they never sell again, you just remodel their house. You completely remodel their house and they're gonna live in it for the next 20, 30 years, don't care that you just put in $100,000 of your own money into it and they backed out. What are you gonna do with them, Okay, next question.
Does a memorandum need approved or, cause couldn't anybody just do that?
No, you have to have a contract to purchase the property signed by both parties.
So you turn that in with the memorandum?
You turn that in with a memorandum and the cost that you incurred, or you would have made, profit you would have made.
How do you know when it's filed and done correctly?
It'll be on title. So the title will hold that memorandum. So it'll be on the title with the title paperwork. So if they go to sell it, it'll be on public record that there's a cloud on title. So when the title company goes to research the title for a warranty deed, they won't get a warranty deed unless they pay it off. And they can't even sell it unless they pay it off. Because it comes on as a, what's it called? A lien. Basically, it looks like a lien on the property. So when you go to sell a property, you can see all the liens that are on the property. So like the bank, that's a lien, right? That shows automatically. So title doesn't just call up like, hey, what's your bank? No, they literally just say, hey, who's on title? And so since you're putting a memorandum on title, it puts a cloud on there with your name and what it's for. That's another video. That's for another video. We're not going to do that. We're not going to deep dive into that.
Okay.
But essentially it protects your interest, right? My interest in this property. Okay. Okay. Type 1. We're going to go over type 1 novation now. This is what I do. This is what I prefer to do, and this is what I always do because I'm not about to get screwed over by some dude that I don't know in middle of fucking nowhere, Texas. Okay? Cool. Let's do this. Novation. Okay? The price that we're going to talk about is $500K. We're going to work all of our deal off of a $500,000 deal. Okay, so $500K. Okay, now that's the value of the property that we're looking at. Okay, the seller probably wants like $480 because they're not dumb. Everybody knows what everything's worth nowadays. Okay, so what I would say is like negotiate it this way. Say, hey, I'll give you $450 because after commissions, seller contributions, and any kind of title and closing fees, or if there's TC fees in your state or lawyer fees, whatever it might be, explain to them that it comes out to like 8 to 12% on a standard basis. So 8 to 12% of this $500,000 price makes no sense for me to give you $480 because now I've got to pay way more than the value of the property, okay? But it makes sense if you don't care who buys the property and you don't mind me having people on the property to show this property for you, I can list it for you at a novation price of $450,000. I'll guarantee your price, $450K. Okay. Oh. Okay. Now we have our margin. We have $50,000 in margin. That's what I like to see. That's where my novation fees generally are. That way I have enough room, okay? So we got 50K spread. Oops, went a little small on that one that time. Anyways, we got 50K spread. Now, what do I like to do with this 50K spread? We're gonna kind of keep this whiteboard clean so I can show you guys everything. 50K. What do I like to do with the 50K margins, okay? So on a $500,000 house, I like to take 10K, go straight to the concessions. That way this property sells faster. I like to sell my properties fast so I get paid faster. Obviously, it's conventional sell, so it's still gonna take 30, 45 days. It is what it is. It's just how it is. But this way you get a contract faster. Hopefully I spelled this right. Concessions. Whatever, I don't think I spelled it right. It's fine, doesn't matter. Point is, we're putting 10 grand towards concessions. We're gonna do a 1% listing fee for our realtor to take care of this deal, okay? Not everybody knows this, but you can negotiate your listing fees with your realtors now, okay? This is a newer thing. It just started in the last couple of years, is what it is. So I offer 1%. You can also go to a flat fee listing brokerage. We use one in Washington. Can't remember the name off the top of my head right now. However, we use a 1% listing brokerage. That's what we always do now. It's easier because they handle a lot more for you, offering 1% than just $400, okay? So now we have 10K concessions, 1% realtor. Now we also have 3% on the back end, okay? 3% realtor. Oops. Buyer. Okay. This is the selling broker. This is the 3% buying broker, okay? So all this sucks, right? You lose all your money right here, okay? But we do this concessions, that way we don't have to worry about the negotiating table coming forward. So if we do have any other major repairs coming up, hey, we have already offered you concessions. That is what our price is. That's why we did what we did. We understand that there might be some issues with the property, as it is a 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old property, okay? So that's why we offered that, because we know there's gonna be something in inspections, okay? In terms of this, I'd have to pull out a calculator to give you the full numbers, but essentially you also got another, let's just say 2% closing cost. Okay, very simple. This is where your margins would come into. This is how I like to see my deals come out. I shake all my deals out to be a 50K margin. That's what I like to do. Obviously, the higher the price, the less margin you're gonna have. If you have a $700,000, $800,000 property, you are going to lose margin. So you're gonna want like $70,000, $80,000 instead of just 50, because it doesn't make sense at that price point, right? Now that being said, anything under 500K, you can make money on a 50K margin, because then you can still drop the price $5,000, $10,000, still make $10,000 in assignment fee, right? Okay, we're gonna break down how we do these deals now, okay? Obviously, we kind of made like the simple impression of like, this is the numbers, right? Now, no, it's not gonna come all off. Anyways, so how I like to do it is I do a RPA, or residential purchase agreement. Some call them PSAs. Okay, this needs to be signed by all of you guys. This needs to be signed by you and the owner, and if there's a secondary owner on title, that needs to be signed as well. What I do like to do, and I do like to do it because it's the fastest way to get things signed when you're on the phone already, okay? Well, what I like to do is I will have the current owner, or the person I'm talking to, if they're not with their significant other, sign that agreement, and then if there is somebody else on title, I will have them sign an addendum later in this process. That way, when everything's said and done, they're still signed and they can't back out because some party didn't sign, right? Okay. So that being said, there is a part of this section that will need to be notarized. However, this part, right off the bat, you can go through Panadoc or like DocuSign or any other kind of like signature product, whatever you want to do to get this signed. But you want the sign immediately, and then you put like 120 days, 120-day inspection period. And the reason why I say this is because that gives you time to sell this property. Gives you a third of the year pretty much, so you're good to go. You should be able to sell this in 3 months. You shouldn't have a problem selling a Novation in 3 months. If you're doing what I was talking about earlier, giving 10K concessions, doing actual brokerages and actually getting this thing sold instead of just saying, hey, it is what it is, I couldn't sell it, sorry dude. No, so 120-day inspection period most people don't care. I don't put any money down on earnest in terms of novations just because there's no point in it. That being said, 120-day inspection period, okay? Okay. Now, we need to do a novation agreement or AOC, or whatever you want to call it. It's an affidavit of interest, okay? We need to add an affidavit of interest. AOC. Affidavit of interest. AOI. Yeah. Anyways, I think it's in my product as AOC. I don't know why. But anyways, point is, you need an affidavit of interest, okay? What that does is give you the rights to list this property. You now have the rights of this property. You have interest in the property. You are essentially an owner of this property, okay? So what that does, it does not give you rights to just be like, hey, this is my house, I can live here now. No, that doesn't give you that. What it does, it just gives you the rights to list this property. And what you have to do in terms of that is to get this notarized. Again, what I like to do is I'll have my mobile notary go out with this document and this document and have them both notarized, even though this one was already signed, okay? So I like to have this one notarized, well, you have to have this one notarized before you can even open escrow and before you can even open the listing, okay? So my notary will actually go out and take pictures of the property for me. I have a mobile notary, we use a specific one. I'm not gonna put that out on blast on everywhere, but if you want it, reach out to me and we'll discuss it, okay? This needs to be notarized, okay? That is done. Now we need to get this thing listed. List the property, okay? We're listing the property, we got it listed, it's under contract within, let's just say 20 days. Specifically, I don't care where. Anyways, 20 days. Now, we need the novation agreement. What that does, let's just write that down. Okay, this needs to be signed, okay, by both you and the selling party, because this creates your assignment fee. That gets you paid. I don't care who you are, if you don't have that in there, you will not get paid. Now, it does suck when you do all this work, and you spent 2 months on this deal, and you don't get paid a dime when you could have made $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, right? I'd hate to have that happen to me. Don't have that happen to you. That being said, this has to be signed by both of you. Generally, what I like to do is I like to do it 3 to 5 days before we go to closing table, right? Before everybody goes to sign, I want that signed, okay? Just that way, you're under contract, everything happens so fast, supposedly, and then this doesn't get missed, right? So everybody likes to have it done like 3 days after they're under contract, but if somebody backs out, now you're just SOL. So I would wait until you're about 3 to 5 days before you sign that novation agreement, send it into title. Now, once this gets put into title, there's a lot of blank spaces that will be put in there because they're gonna have to do all their math at title work, okay? So do not forget that. This is like super important, okay? Super important. You get paid from that, okay? And now, a release of interest. Release of interest will be at the closing table as well, maybe a day before. It depends on the title company you're working with. Some of them will send it out for you to have you sign it, and then that way you don't have any interest in the property anymore once the property's sold. So essentially you're like a lien holder. but this takes that all off for your payment, okay? This will be after your novation agreement. Title will send it to you or ask for it sometimes. Now, if they don't ask for it, it's not a big deal. They'll probably just, smack it off and be like, whatever. But then this is closing, right? Okay, closing. Now, this is where you get paid, obviously. And what I like to do is I will send in, sometimes depending on the title company you're working with, they'll be working with like a team. And so I will ask for whoever is going to be closing out the documents, and I will send in my wiring instructions for them. And that way it doesn't get missed, because I have had it to where I sent it to the team and the team is just like, I don't know what happened to it. And it's obviously in the emails, nobody's reading it. That's the problem. And so what I like to do is I'll contact the person in charge of it. I will email them directly, which I am a person I really like working with now, so it works out pretty easy. They have my stuff on file. We're good to go. That being said, if you don't have wiring instructions, they can ask you for where you want the check to be sent. So they'll send you a cashier's check in the mail. It usually takes 3 to 7 days, whatever it ends up being. Questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Novation agreement, why wouldn't you just get it signed in the beginning?
Okay. Why would you not get that signed in the beginning? Okay. Question came up. Why would this not get signed in the beginning? This novation agreement creates your assignment fee, right? So this novation agreement creates your assignment fee. If you have not gone through the negotiating table, through inspections, appraisal, whatever it might be, you don't know what your novation agreement is going to be yet. You don't know what your assignment fee is yet. So if you do this up here and you say, hey, my assignment fee is going to be $30,000, you don't know that because you haven't gone through inspections. You already listed it. Your inspections are right in between here. Obviously, this is a normal listing agreement, essentially. You are now becoming essentially a realtor, but not a realtor. Okay, so you are listing the property. You go through inspections, appraisals. You can't have this signed until after inspections, appraisals, and all your negotiations are done, because if you don't negotiate, great, you're in a good spot. You know what you're going to get. But if you don't know what title fees are going to be. So you still don't know what you're going to get. So you can't have this signed until after negotiations, and then title will actually go through that novation agreement and figure out the remaining cost on title side. Next.
What's the ROI?
Release of interest.
Oh, okay. So you don't mess up the title.
Yeah, so you don't put a cloud on title when they go to buy it.
So does the novation agreement have your fee in there and the owners see it?
Partially. So they don't see my fee, but you don't know what the fee is going to be until after everything's said and done, so they can't sign it anyways. Because this has to, what's it called? You have to go through inspections and everything. Otherwise, you don't know what that's going to be anyways. But you won't know what your full fee will be until after title does their side. So title will actually fill out the rest of the novation agreement. It comes out like halfway blank, because they got to fill out all their math stuff on their end. All right, guys, if you guys have any other questions in regards to novations, just reach out to me. You can hit up my Instagram, my Facebook, whatever. I don't care. Reach out to me.